This podcast is brought to you by Mercury, the banking solution I use across all of my businesses. I manage half a dozen Mercury accounts, from my personal single-member LLC to MicroConf, our seven-figure global events and education platform, to TinySeed, our venture fund and accelerator. Mercury handles every one of them. Traditional banking forces you to duct tape tools together and work around slow processes. Mercury doesn't. The dashboard shows me exactly where each business stands at a glance. The interface is simple enough for daily banking and paying invoices, but can also handle the multi-step approval processes we need when wiring large sums of money to the dozens of companies we invest in each year. There's a reason more than 300,000 entrepreneurs have made the switch. Anytime founders ask me where to set up their accounts, I send them to Mercury.com. It's free to get started with no in-person visits and no minimum balance. Visit Mercury.com to apply online in minutes. Mercury is a fintech company, not an FDIC-insured bank. Banking services provided through Choice Financial Group and Column NA, members FDIC. You're listening to Startups for the Rest of Us. I'm your host, Rob Walling. In this Hot Take Tuesday episode, my two co-hosts and I dig into topics like, is AI killing B2B SaaS, ads hitting ChatGPT, the explosion of OpenClaw, and more. I did not intentionally make it an all AI episode, but these are the topics of the day. Before we dive into the episode, I want to let you know that there are two never published episodes of Startups for the Rest of Us, and the only way to get them is to sign up for our email list. Head to startupsfortherestofus.com, enter your email to subscribe, and you'll get an episode titled 8 Things You Must Know When Launching Your Startup and 10 Things You Should Know as You Grow and Scale Your SaaS. These are audio episodes, and they are accompanied by a PDF guide for each that summarizes the two episodes. And honestly, whether you're interested in these episodes or not, we also send out a weekly recap of each episode of Startups for the Rest of Us. And you'll be joining several thousand folks on that list who get the show notes and all the links of things we talk about in the episodes. Startupsfortherestofus.com and subscribe to get all of that. And with that, let's dive into Hot Take Tuesday. It's Hot Take Tuesday time again, and I'm welcoming my usual band of misfits. Kicking us off first is
Tracy Osborn.
So Tracy Osborn, what do you do at MicroConf TinySeed?
I feel like these sessions are actually a really great way for people to see what a dork you actually are. Like, it doesn't come out in the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, totally.
Hi, I'm Tracy. I am the head of product of TinySeed and of MicroConf.
So what do you mean head of product? What do you do?
I'll say this thing I said earlier to you. I am the Riker to your Picard. So I run all the day to day. You tell me what to do and I make it happen. Let's put it that way.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yep, that's what I do.
And my other panelist is
Mr. Einar Vollset.
It sounds like you're being announced at a Giants game.
Yes, finally. It's less than 10 days. It's less than one Scaramucci until spring training starts. Did you know that?
I didn't, but I do now. Einar Vollset, what do you do?
I am your co-founder at TinySeed and also the founder and managing partner at Discretion Capital.
Very nice. And Discretion Capital is a boutique M&A firm that advises SaaS founders from 2 million to 20, 25 million ARR. And you advise them on the sell side if they're looking to sell. Speaking of that, you and your team have put together a guide, the definitive guide to M&A for B2B SaaS. It is at discretioncapital.com/guide. You want to give us just a brief summary of what's included?
Yeah, it was actually one of my colleagues over at Discretion was like, you should write something because we've been doing this since for nearly a decade now, and most people don't really understand what it goes into. It goes into M&A for B2B SaaS in this sort of ARR range. So really that's the goal. The goal really is like, and look, obviously it's marketing. Like I want the companies to come to us and we'll help them make a bunch of money, but not everybody will do that. And so even if you're even if you're going to DIY it, it's worth understanding like what does the market actually look like, because it's actually this sort of size range is very difficult. Once you get larger than that, if you're into like 50 or $100 million, then very quickly, like, it becomes kind of known what the market is and, what things cost and like who the buyers are. But between that sort of 2 and 20 million ARR range, it's an extremely opaque market. And so what that translates into is like, you can very easily end up in a situation where you as a founder get bad advice. So you end up selling your business for like a third of what it's worth. So, which pisses me off. So that's what's really the impetus for writing this guide. So we're putting this together. It's mostly written. We're actually launching it publicly and should have some hopefully physical copies for people at MicroConf in Portland in April. But we're putting out one chapter a week basically. We just launched the chapter 2 here, going into on Monday, going into who actually buys these companies. Are they? Because people don't even know that. People don't even know like what is the typical makeup of buyers in the universe.
Yeah, that 70% of B2B SaaS acquisitions in this range are private equity.
Yeah, private equity or at least private equity owned, right? So a lot of people, they don't know what that means, and a lot of people have a view of, I like to joke like, private equity is like, like a Bruce Springsteen movie or a song where it's like, they're always bad and always pay poorly, but that really is a misunderstanding of really the biggest buyer class for B2B SaaS in this size range.
That's discretioncapital.com/guide. And by the time this episode goes live, I believe you have at least 5, maybe 6 chapters of that will be live because this is a few weeks out. Speaking of that, I actually wanted to ask you a question up front, and it's in relation to this very podcast, episode 819, where I was asked about QSBS. And someone was saying, should we become a C Corp? And I was like, obviously, I can't give you advice, but here's what I would do. I would do it because I figure I'm going to sell and then I'm going to save on the taxes. And now, even after, isn't it like 3 years you get 50%, 4 years you get 75%, and 5 years you get the full thing. And I explained that all in the episode. But the thing that I wasn't sure about is QSBS means you have to sell the stock. So you can't do an asset sale. And I know there's a mix of asset and stock sales. So my question that I couldn't answer on there, and I specifically called out and said, I should ask Einar in a future episode. Here we are at that future episode. Around what ARR range, or no, it's probably more like at what purchase price is a better way to ask this. Do you see SaaS acquisitions changing from asset to stock purchase or vice versa?
I mean, you can have an asset purchase pretty much any size. It really depends. Probably 90% of the transactions we do, if not more, are stock transactions. Really, I think around about 5 million, is roughly where it starts. We don't do a lot or any deals that low, but like certainly once you get past 10, most of them are stock. And actually cover this a little bit in the guide, but it's a sort of a give and take. Usually the buyers want to do an asset purchase for tax reasons because that means they can reappreciate the asset, and it's simpler. Like, so this is the illusion, right? Like, so what is an asset purchase versus a stock purchase? Asset purchase just means you're just buying specific assets. So like you're buying, say, the contracts, the website, the thing, the IP, but you're not buying the rest of the company or any obligations or whatever that they have or have not, made over the years. And so the reason why you typically don't do a stock purchase is because it becomes a lot more expensive, because it becomes just like the legal cost of papering a stock purchase becomes kind of not worth it if your deal isn't very large. So like my rule of thumb is like around about 1 million of ARR typically. It starts to become much more common to do stock purchases. But I mean, it does happen. Like particularly if you have large companies that are LLCs come along and they're just like, yeah, we're going to structure an asset purchase. And all things being the same, you're going to get slightly more money in an asset purchase than you would do in a stock if you're negotiating correctly. But again, like usually, certainly if you're a C Corp, but even so, that there's usually some tax issues around, non-stock purchases that you should be aware of.
Cool. So give or take, rule of thumb, you think about 1 million ARR and maybe 5 million exit price?
Somewhere in there, yeah.
That sounds about right. And I had hinted at that in the episode, but I just wasn't certain. I'm sure I'd heard you say it at some point and was kind of just quoting you on it. So With that, let's dive into our first topic of the day. And I'm just going to give a warning to everyone. This is all AI all the time. I went out to look for any topic that would impact us in B2B SaaS, and I sifted through all the things, and it's just AI, AI, AI. So that is the episode today. If you don't like AI, I'll be back again next Tuesday morning. But first topic is an article that we will link up in the show notes called AI is Killing B2B SaaS. And I think my question, and I'll kick it to Tracy first, is AI killing B2B SaaS, or will it just be subscription software by another name? Is the market overreacting? Because as we're recording this, the stock market is brutalizing some public SaaS companies. What are your thoughts?
You know, the landscaper down the street is always going to need some sort of software to help them run their business. And so subscription software for businesses is going to stick around. But the way that that software is built and the ability for people to start building solutions for those B2B businesses for those kind of businesses is fundamentally changing. It is so much easier now for someone to be like, cool, I just want to build a software for 5 people on my street that are running these businesses. So as someone who is, supporting folks who are building software for B2B SaaS is not going to go away. But for those folks building that software, they need to be very aware that it's going to be a way easier for people to build something to do what they're doing. And they have to figure out some way to make your software unique and defensible against these folks who are vibe coding.
One thing I was really surprised by in this piece, which is actually pretty well written, there's some things I quibble with, but one fact that he was displaying was that HubSpot and Klaviyo are down 30%. And analysts are writing notes titled "No Reasons to Own Software Stocks." And when I think of how complicated HubSpot and Klaviyo is, it's like you're not going to fucking vibe code those. Like that, it is probably more powerful than Drip, and Drip is complicated as And so what? I'm just like, with that in mind, Einar Vollset, what are your thoughts on this topic?
I mean, I've been asked this question a fair bit. Obviously, we're fundraising for Fund 3 by investors and things like that. I'm on record to say that I think even public SaaS companies are oversold. I actually personally rotated into some more public SaaS in the last couple of weeks, which may come back to bite me. But fundamentally,
when oversold, you mean they've people have been selling them, so they're going down, and you think it's an overreaction?
Basically, I think it's a buying opportunity, is what I think, and so I bought some. But fundamentally, my thing with it is like this: it's like, I think the only reason when SaaS will be dead is if we've basically invented God. Like that, if you've invented an AI that is super intelligent to the point that okay, we're ants to it, and it can just do anything perfectly straight off the bat when you just ask it to do it, then I think SaaS is in trouble. But if that's happening, the least of your problems is what's going on with SaaS. All sorts of problems become a problem then. Instead, what I think we're at is look, I think the models are incrementally getting better, but not as fast as they were, relatively speaking, is sort of my view. So it feels a little bit like we're sort of at the, at least the starting on the top end of an S curve of capability. I think that's extremely disruptive to a lot of incumbents. And so I think, yes, there is some risk to some large incumbents because it's sort of one of the situations where okay, there's a lot of change, a lot of uncertainty. And so, if they misplay it, I can see that they are disruptible in a way that they weren't prior to this AI thing. But the flip side of that is okay, I think people lose track of the fact that what we're dealing with here is software. I mean, people sort of anthropomorphize AI in that, in such a way that they think it's fundamentally different to for example, I have people who will very happily, they will not give their email to Gemini, the Google AI, even when they turn off don't use my data for training. And I'm like, why do you care? And they're like, oh, because it's not secure. And I'm like, Google already has your data. What are you talking about? It's in Gmail. It's you're giving the data back to the same company. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. But I think people have sort of completely lost that a lot of the time. And so they anthropomorphize and think about it. Versus what it is software. It's a new software capability. And so applying that to public soft stock is basically the bet. If you're betting against SaaS, or certainly established public SaaS, if you're betting against that, what you're basically arguing is the companies that made billions of dollars deploying software are going to do a bad job deploying software. That's the bet. That is what you're betting if you think that SaaS is dead completely. Unless you believe this other thing, which is, that we've built God or are building God, which, there are people who do, there are people who are, convinced that, the world's going to end within the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. When I say SaaS isn't dead and I roll my eyes, people say, well, of course you say that because everything you have is built on SaaS. And you know what? That's not actually true. I mean, I know right now it's like SaaS and we're B2B SaaS, but let's say that agents became the new thing to subscribe to. And that, in fact, agents had built-in databases and business logic and all this stuff. And maybe that happens eventually. Why wouldn't we just start investing in them? Why wouldn't I create startups for the rest of us content for them? Why wouldn't my next book be called The Agentic Playbook by Rob Wallet? Like, these are the same thing. It's just software by a different name. SaaS used to be downloadable, right? It wasn't SaaS then, but it was downloadable. Then it was called they were called application service providers. ASPs was the name for SaaS before SaaS. And then it was like cloud software became a thing for a while. And I think only like super enterprise, like Fortune 500s call it that now. It's just something by a different name. So I get it's a headline and I want to get clicks on social media or on YouTube or whatever, but like, if you are really stuck in SaaS, now, maybe the reason that these like HubSpot or whatever, people think they're going down is that they can't be agile enough. They can't roll with this. They're not going to implement AI and some upstart is going to come in and uproot them. But to your point, if HubSpot just implements the AI in their model or in their app, like they're going to do okay. I think there's hypothesis that everyone's going to vibe code their own app. And to Tracy's earlier point, it's like, no, we're not. I used to write code for a living, and I'm not going to vibe code a bunch of crap. I might do a little utility here, a little whatever. But the maintenance of that over time and the hosting, just the patches a lot, like I don't want, and I get it, it could be Lambda, blah, 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 whatever. There's no way that my super smart PhD wife, there's no way she's going to vibe code a thing. She's going to pay for software, and most people will too. And we're in these bubbles where we're all techies and we can all roll our own thing in a weekend. That's fine. Go do that. But that's not, Tracy, you've seen how resistant that I've been to even having any code that TinySeed maintains. Because it's like, I don't want to be a software shop. I know that, the headache and maintenance of that. With that, I want to roll to our next topic, which is actually something, Einar, you brought up already. It's just a question. There's no article here, but I had a question for the two of you, and I'd like to start with Tracy again. My question is, are the AI models that you are using today noticeably better than they were 6, maybe 12 months ago? We can kind of put a time frame on it. And so, Tracy, maybe talk about any of the models you're using and what your experience has been like. The reason I'm bringing this up is, sure, it's anecdotal. It's an N of 3 people weighing in. But I do like to hear boots on the ground examples of different use cases because you're using it for different things than I am.
Yeah, I feel like I probably represent a lot of folks who are too busy. Like they see the hype happening, but they're too busy to really dive into it. And so like I've been using AI kind of in surface level, haven't gone deep. And so what I've been seeing from my work, I've been using ChatGPT, and then I've started using Claude. And I started using Claude because ChatGPT has been driving me up the wall twice now. I posted this on the TinySeed Slack, a whole screenshot of asking about a Zapier question, and ChatGPT just like lost its shit, and it just went for pages of not understanding and spiraling out. And it's happened again with other Zapier questions. I don't know what ChatGPT has with Zapier. So anyways, that's my experience with ChatGPT of just seeing like, oh, hey, this thing is supposed to be evolving to be better. And I'm running into these cases where I'm just like, this is awful. I have to move off of it. And so I've started using Claude. So that said, for my use cases, which is generally in and around communication, summarizing information, regurgitating information in a better way that I can use in my processes. I'm not really using it for programming yet. ChatGPT is worse. Claude seems to be better. I haven't seen enough of a difference in the last 6 or 12 months to say, to definitively like, oh, these things are better for me. They're already, I would say, like pretty much good enough other than ChatGPT just losing it on certain questions, which shouldn't be happening. It's very weird.
How about you, Einar? What tools are you using and what are you using them for? And then the question of, are they better?
Yeah. I'm one of those revolting guys who has like the Max subscription and everything. So I have like Claude Max. I have ChatGPT Pro Max, whatever the most expensive ones. So I use both. The one I'm using the most now is Claude Code, like specifically Claude Code, not just Claude. I like the style of the personality, let's call it that, of Claude better than ChatGPT at the moment. But I think the big unlock for me was like Claude Code. Like it was the harnessing around it the fact that it could go around and like understand like a whole quote unquote code base. None of the stuff I'm doing is a code base. It was always something else. But that harnessing and that structure around it is sort of, if anything, for me, that change, which is not like an AI capability change, was a bigger step up in change than I've seen from any model change in the certainly last year, probably more. My answer is like, yeah, I don't personally think that there has been such a big, every time there's a dot change, like 4.5 to 4.6 or whatever, there's always like a big thing. Oh my God, we turned the corner and like now we're doing this thing and it's the end times or the beginning of the beginning or whatever it is. And that I haven't seen. Like my impression has been that if I'm perfectly honest, a lot of the time I don't notice that I've been upgraded to version 5 or 5.1 or 5.2 or whatever. To be perfectly honest with you, I just don't notice it. And so no, I don't think that the models have changed. Where I might not pick up on it is like I can see how potentially some of these updates will allow you to be more quote unquote agentic, so there's some like long running things, or particularly around coding, where I can see like, okay, maybe they trained it in such a way that it can be independent for longer in parallel with a lot of other things, that like if you are deep in big development projects, yeah, maybe you're noticing that difference. But for the stuff that I do, like the most advanced stuff I did here was like, I got sick of Squarespace, so I had it port all of the Discretion Capital Squarespace site over to, a static website generator and put it on GitHub. But that's like, okay, then I gotta spank it, every 20 minutes because it screwed something up. It's not like super long running agentic things. That might be the only difference. But personally, no, I haven't noticed the difference.
And for me, I had been using ChatGPT exclusively until Craig Hewitt busted my chops about it. He really doesn't like ChatGPT. And now I see why not. I started using Manus a little bit, but then Claude became my thing. It feels like a lot of folks are moving to it. And I found Claude to be, it's more expensive, but I don't care. Like ChatGPT is $20 and Claude is, I think I paid $200. I don't actually need to. I could probably be fine on the $100 plan. But I've been using it to repurpose some audio and video that I've recorded and trying to get it to write prose that sounds like me. So I've been training it to be like, here are my books, here are my blogs. I've written hundreds of thousands of words. This shouldn't be that hard to match how I write to these topics, because I'm also speaking them. It's me speaking, turn it into writing, right? And it doesn't get a full finished job, but man, ChatGPT could not handle that. And Claude, I have trained it and I've had to give it iteration after iteration of, it puts something out, I do a full edit of how I want it to be, then spit it back in, and it gets better and better and better. So that's one thing. I don't know if Claude could have done that a year ago, because I didn't try it that extensively, but I do know that I'm impressed with it. Similar though, when I think back a year or two, it feels generally the same. It's getting asymptotically better. It's like a little better. I mean, Einar, you had a theory that resonated with me, which was the first generations of all these LLMs were trained on basically the entire internet, or as much of it as they could get. And so then to get a lot better, you kind of need another entire internet's worth of material, which doesn't exist because it's a whole internet. Am I quoting you correctly here?
Yeah, there's a couple of different things, right? It's like people are always saying like, just train more data and more compute. And then if you keep 30xing the compute, you're going to get a step up improvement, 50% improvement every time. And there's two things there. One is like, you're just going to run out of training data, which is actually why I'm slightly quite bullish actually on Tesla, despite their enormous thing. Because like one of the interesting things about Tesla is like, someone told me this, which stat's probably not correct, but it's something along the lines of this. It's like every second, Tesla, the network of Tesla cars gets like a lifetime's worth of a driving experience every second or every millisecond or something crazy.
Interesting.
But that's raw data, right?
Yeah.
That's like raw, real training data, which like you're not generating that kind of like textual data, but in and of itself. So there's a constraint there. You could potentially like synthetic data, but then you have issues with like, well, are you really improving self-improvement? Dodgy. So there's that. And then fundamentally also, like, it's just the asymptote stuff just has to do with sort of the increasing cost of compute. I was arguing with someone on Twitter, which I know must shock you guys.
What?
But,
first time for everything.
Yeah. But they were basically like saying like, look, and they had this graph. It was something along the lines of like, a 50% improvement, 30 times in a row is still like an amazing, is like a fundamental change to everything we know about. And I'm like, yeah, but if you assume that, say, ChatGPT 3 costs $20 million to train in compute budget, and you're having for every step up, you have to 10x the budget. Like by time like 23 or something, the compute budget is higher in US dollars than the number of atoms in the observable universe. So like, okay, what are we talking about here? Like, yeah, I know on paper you can make this work, but that's just not how it's going to be. There has to be, I think, and I think most people now, if you talk to like leading edge research and stuff, sort of agree with this. They're like, look, there has to be another breakthrough to really start that, like, to get to the next kind of level, that capability where people start talking about like super intelligence or like, something like that. It needs something else. You can't just throw more synthetic data and compute on it. And I just don't buy it personally.
If you're a founder with a strong vision but no technical partner, you need more than a vibe-coded MVP. You need a real foundation. That's where Designly comes in. Their Solution Lab prototyping sprint is a focused 2-week collaboration where you work together with a seasoned product owner, a developer, and a designer to define what to build, why it matters, and how it should look, feel, and function. You'll turn your idea into a beautiful and clickable prototype, something you'll be proud to show to early users or investors. Designly is the product team you can actually trust, with a track record of helping founders move from being ghosted by dev shops to growing real businesses. And right now, Designly is giving my listeners $3,800 off their Solution Lab prototyping sprint. To get started today, check out designly.co/fortherestofus. That's designli.co/fortherestofus. Our next topic is that ChatGPT has started running ads, is going to start running ads. I actually don't know. I've been, since I pay for it, I don't see ads, but Anthropic ran a spicy Super Bowl ad pointing out, it was a little disingenuous, but then Sam Altman got pretty angered by this and tweeted, I wonder why Anthropic would go for something so clearly dishonest. Our most important principle for ads says we won't do exactly what they're showing. We would obviously never run ads in the way they depict them. We are not stupid, and we know our users would reject that. And then it says Anthropic serves an expensive product to rich people. We are glad they do that, but we feel strongly that we need to bring AI to billions of people who can't pay for subscriptions. So there's a lot here. Tracy, I'll kick it to you first in terms of ads in ChatGPT. What do you think about all of it?
I was thinking through this before we started talking. I was looking at your notes, and it just reminds me that every now and then I pop on a Prime show, and now it has the little pop-ups where it's like, hey, this ad has, like, press the button on your remote and you can like order the product via your Amazon Prime thing. And my first reaction seeing those is be like, oh yeah, I was like, I will never do this because I'm a brat and I hate those things. And I was like, why would they do that? And then I was like, oh, but I'm not the average person. I'm sure that Amazon is only doing this because they see that it works. And if I apply that over to ChatGPT, if you have the average user in there, and if I saw an ad in ChatGPT, I would just close the tab and move on. But I have to admit that I'm not the average person, and I'm far more aware of, I think, advertising than the average person and more annoyed by it. So on one hand, I can see why ChatGPT is doing this. It's not something for me. Probably it's for the other person. The other part of it is like, really? This is your monetization model? Like, going back to why I don't like advertising. I'm like, really? Is this the best you could do? Like, just serve up ads? I don't know. It's just, I don't know if I have like a really concise thing to say here other than my annoyance that this is, the world is moving into this, oh, gotta have ads in there. And then I think I'm not alone in being annoyed by this, which is why Claude brought that up as a way to needle their competition.
Einar, what do you think about this?
It reminds me of Google in the old days. This is how old I am. I think one of the Google co-founders was like, oh, I'd never run ads. It'll ruin it. And then they were like, oh, I will run it, but we'll make it very clear that they're ads so nobody's confused. And now I look at it and I'm like, okay, there's no difference. Like, they're clearly serving equivalent ads. I also am reminded of the old Google motto, like, don't be evil, which, I think that sort of went by the downside a while back too for a lot of stuff. So, but I mean, on the flip side, I get annoyed at ads, but I'm a little bit more understanding than Tracy. And I'm like, look, it's the world's biggest sort of, economic model. Like, that is the business model is advertising. And so, yeah, they're going to do it. Not only are they going to do it, but so is Claude. I guarantee it. They might figure out something clever and do the thing, but like, there's just not a universe unless Claude get bought by Apple or something, that Claude aren't going to have to do advertising if they're going to be a public company and grow, and if that's their plan. There's just no way. I don't think.
Yeah. Anytime you're selling a free product, then the person using it is the product, right? That's the old adage. And when you're selling to basically consumer-ish folks, that's been the monetization model for radio, for television, for all the mass media. So there's too much money and value to be unlocked here to not do it, I think. In addition, I just want to call out that producer Ron and I were talking right before this call about putting together a YouTube video on the opportunity here for startup founders, because we have B2B SaaS companies that are like, well, SEO, your Google SEO is getting a little scary, and Google AdWords are too expensive, and Facebook Meta ads are too expensive. You know when Google AdWords was really cheap? Right when they started, 2005 and 2006. In fact, Jason Cohen talks about, I think it was IT Watchdog, which is his precursor to WP Engine. He said he was getting 5 and 10 cent clicks. And at that point, and then I built HitTail, grew it from $1,500 to $30,000 a month. Almost, it was not exclusively, but a lot of that growth was Facebook ads specifically, and the clicks were I think I was getting 20-cent clicks at the time. It was somewhere in that range, like 15 to 25 cents, because it was early. Now it was the wild freaking west. There was like almost no documentation. There were no real books or experts on it. There were no consultants who could do it, and I had to learn the interface myself. And I did read like a Kindle book or two and trial and error to get it. So it's Wild West. But if I were a startup founder myself, you know that I'd be trying to get in. Now, it's not even available right yet. You have to, but if there's an early access list or something to get on, I'd be looking to do that. And I think it'd be fun, Tracy, even if we ran some just to test if ads come out, like to run ads for SaaS Institute, right? Or any other efforts that I think would warrant that. What do you think about the opportunity for SaaS founders? Do you think there's going to be something coming up to replace what's happening with SEO and have a new ad network that is cheaper, less expensive?
I mean, yes, definitely. Like, I guess, like, yeah, if I look at through the lens of, I hate ads personally, but man, that is like jumping into this brand new way of work that people, or the way of life that's going on right now. Like, yes, absolutely. We need to, like, we at TinySeed need to take advantage of this. The folks that we work with at TinySeed need to take advantage of this. It's very clear that this is where everything is going. And the folks that are going to benefit the most from this are the folks who are going to jump on it early. And I know that, like, so many things have come out around this, like crypto and, you know, all those things. And people are like, oh, you got to jump on it early. And they kind of, from my perspective, haven't panned out as much as they have. But if the AI does feel like this is the true sticking.
So a lot of usage.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
A lot of eyeballs, a lot of attention to get in front of. And our final topic of the day is about OpenClaw, formerly known as ClawBot. And when that came out, I was like, why did they name it that? They're going to get sued. And they got C&D'd real quick. So is OpenClaw hype or is it substance? Is it here to stay or is it the next Clubhouse? And we have two articles, one called OpenClaw is Changing My Life, and another called OpenClaw is What Apple Intelligence Should Have Been. Einar Vollset, are you a believer in OpenClaw and what it can do? Nodding vehemently yes.
I love OpenClaw. I think it's great. ClawBot, it's amazing. Like, I have it running for me. I bought it looking at the Mac Mini I bought for it. It's great. Lots of issues with it, you know, but it feels like, you know, actually the title of this article is sort of how I feel about it. This is what Apple should have done. And I still think they might do, because, like, really, OpenClaw isn't all that helpful unless you give it access to all your shit. But if you give it access to all your shit, then that's a giant security risk that you got to manage, and all this stuff. It's like, it's got access to this. Where is the nexus for where all that is securely enabled for me? It's in my pocket, in my phone. Like, Apple is perfectly positioned to do that. And instead, what they have, which is always just complaining about on Twitter, is like Apple, they're even like Apple Siri is even like suggesting, oh, do you want to add this event to your calendar? And it's a duplicate of an event that's already in the calendar. This is how stupid Siri is. They can't even look at the calendar and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't suggest an event that's already in the calendar. Like, so yes, fundamentally, I think it's, do I think it's as big a deal as people think? No. Like there's an awful lot of noise at the moment, and there's an awful lot of people I start looking at it, it's like, what are you actually doing? It's like, oh, I'm just kind of really like, it's looking at my email and my calendar, and it's arranging my to-do list. And I'm like, great, but like your to-do list is still kind of the same, right? I don't know if there's any difference there. But I do think like, this is what I was talking about too, like with how Claude Code, that harness around has been the biggest change. And I feel like that's actually where Apple could come in. And without necessarily owning like a fantastic foundation model, could come in and just be like the interface by which normal people interact with AI day in and day out. For sure, I think that's true.
Tracy Makes, what's your experience or understanding of OpenClaw?
I'm scared of it because of the security issues. And I am someone who like, I'm just like, oh no. Like even like small things that are not even AI, but I started using Superhuman, and it was all like, oh, we'll start like managing your email for you. And I immediately missed a bunch of stuff because it just like the system itself thought it was like, oh, you don't need these things. And I was like, wait, I actually do need those things. And so I imagine that being put into like across my entire computer, and the little AI agent just being like, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. And I'm a type A person who likes to have everything in the right place at the right for me to like categorize myself and fix myself and update myself and all that. So that's where I am right now. However, I can definitely see myself like when a consumer solution comes out that reassures me, that allows me to tie in all my systems in a way where I know that the chances of something going wrong is vastly decreased, because right now it looks like the chances of going wrong are like they're nearly guaranteed because it's early, but it's going to get to that point. And when it gets to that point, then like that's the future. That's what's going to happen. And I know that that's something I'll switch over to. So I'm not there yet, but I'm looking at it and seeing like, okay, I can see where this is going, and I'm excited, but I'm going to wait until I'm not scared of it.
But this is what I mean. Like, this is why Apple is the perfect interface.
Yeah.
Because if Apple came along and said, hey, here's the thing, like, honestly, privacy is secured, blah, 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 you just, you can just chat to a super capable AI that knows all the context for everything you've ever gotten. Like, who reminds you, hey, it's Rob's birthday on next Tuesday or whatever. That's helpful.
You're talking to the person who has Siri turned off on her phone. So,
I haven't even gone because it's brain dead. It kept poisoning my calendar with duplicates.
Yep.
Yeah, it's bananas. OpenClaw, here to stay, or the next Be Real? Remember Be Real, that social network that was here for like a week?
I have no
Nobody?
memory of that.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
How about this one? Is OpenClaw the best idea since Greedo shooting first?
Is what?
No, just me? All right, Trace. I got Trace.
Yeah. No, I got that. That's hilarious.
Have you ever seen Star Wars? Did you? That's like an old Kevin Smith joke. All right. So those are for me on OpenClaw. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, Tracy. I'm not at all. I would buy the Mac Mini and I would install it. The technical issue doesn't concern me. It's the security of it at this point. And I don't want to spend all that time and then have Apple or someone else do it. It's like, oh, hey, it's one click and it'll do it. I'm kind of waiting for that. I don't need it so badly that I'm so desperate that I'm going out buying Mac Minis.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know if you guys are like football fans, because I'm not. And so the Super Bowl was just happened this weekend. And so, the big ad was AI.com.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I heard something about this, but continue.
Yeah, so that's pretty much, I'm sure that's what they're doing. It's AI.com, and it's like lives in your iMessage kind of thing. Like, and there's sort of like, there's a bunch of startups now that are sort of like spin this up and let it host and do all the thing. And people are there's still ways that you can spin it up as like a CloudFront thingamajigger worker, Cloudflare worker, or whatever. And like, that's fine, but that doesn't actually give you what you why it's the most capable, which is it has access to your stuff as if it's sitting in front of a log. That's why, it's what I'm saying, like, you're almost never going to get like 100% security because it's not helpful unless it sees what I see. And if it doesn't see what I see, then it's just like, yeah, okay, like, can you do some web research for me? I'm like, yeah, but so can ChatGPT. Like, who cares? That's not interesting.
I have to be assured that it's thinking about things the way I want to think about it. Like, that's the thing that, like, okay, cool. I can like take it. I can have it look at my insecure stuff as long as I know that it's going to be doing what I want it to be doing, like, and not going off and it's doing its own thing.
Sometimes I'm really glad that it's not doing what I'm thinking because it's better.
So you want it to be better. Fair enough. If folks want to keep up with Tracy Makes Osborn, you are not on Twitter, but you did bet Einar Vollset $1,000 and a sushi dinner for me that I just kept on the sushi dinner, that Blue Sky would be at 100 million signups, not active users. At some point, it's like a year and a half, 2 years from now.
You might as well just pay me now.
What is your handle on
No.
Blue Sky? Is it tracyosborn.com?
It is tracyosborn.com, yes. I need to get tracymakes.com at this point. Like, what am I doing? What's wrong with me?
Yeah, no, I'm about to go out and register that. And you these days are working on SaaS Institute. We're working on several things, but SaaS Institute, which is our premium coaching for 7- and 8-figure ARR SaaS founders.
It's our new program too, so we can work with more founders that are, at 1 million up and want to have a TinySeed-like experience, but aren't the right fit for the accelerator. Einar, share it more. I see you talk about the accelerator a lot. Talk about SaaS Institute.
Okay.
All right, publicly calling Einar up. This
Calling
is
you
great.
up, Polly.
You pitch the guide and I'll pitch the institute. How about
Okay, yes, I already have.
Einar Vollset. I don't like it when mommy and daddy fight. Einar Vollset on Twitter, EINAR VOLLSET, tweeting about the Giants and AI and Norwegian fiscal policy, it seems.
Fiscal policy and like Epstein stuff now. Like apparently the Epstein things was a big thing for Norway.
I know.
No, seriously. Turns out that the crown princess was like buddy with Epstein.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of folks are getting arrested. It's all good. It's good times in the Norwegian media. I'll tell you that much.
That's crazy. Einar is originally from Norway, for those who don't know. And you're also working, as we said, discretioncapital.com. And if people want that guide, they can just hit /guide, get it for free on the internet. Tracy and Einar, thanks again so much for joining me for this week's episode.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Tracy and Einar for joining me this week. And thanks to you for subscribing and rating the show. If you are listening in Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever app you're listening, I would appreciate a 5-star rating or a thumbs up or whatever mechanism your podcatcher of choice is using. It helps new folks find the show. Thanks for listening this week and every week. This is Rob Walling signing off for episode 823.